Welcome back to the channel. My name is Jeff, and today I'm going to be continuing with my sort of next generation rewatch, and I'm going to be talking about season 4, which I've just finished. So season 4, definitely a mixed bag. I thought season 3 was a real solid upswing from season 1 and 2. Season 4 started off really strong, and then there was a lot of really mediocre episodes. Really, nothing really popped until maybe near the end, and obviously it ends on a slam bang two-parter, Redemption, where Worf goes back to his Klingon homeworld, regains his name, helps, win the Civil War for the good guys. But yeah, so I'm gonna highlight about maybe half a dozen episodes that I liked. But my overview first is that, so the main thing in this season is that Wesley's gone. And Wesley goes to the academy. And I noticed right away, like on the bridge, in a sense that when you were looking at the bridge, the first 3 episodes, whenever there were scenes at the bridge, Wesley at the helm, Data at his station, Picard, everyone was, the screen was kind of full of characters that you knew. This was the main cast, there they were on the bridge. And this season, there was just random ensigns at helm. So it was just, it felt different. As much as he wasn't maybe, the biggest character, his absence on the bridge was definitely felt by me. Because he's usually there. And being well placed, he can contribute to the solutions of some of the problems because he was super smart. So yeah, I definitely felt I missed him. I liked his plot lines. I liked, his character was learning and growing on the show, and that people would, mentor him and that sort of thing. But definitely the bridge did not feel the same. And it did feel odd with just this kind of ensign of the week sitting next to Data, who had no lines and wasn't brought into the story at all. So that was the first thing that I noticed. Troy is back in the writer's room, I think. Season 3 Troy was really kind of in danger of becoming a side character. They were, I think in season 3, maybe the only Troy-centered episode was with Luxana, and she stole the show. But it was nice that this episode, there were a couple of Troys that were good, a couple of episodes that featured her, and she was back. Not as much, again, as I thought she was in the first 2 seasons. I still felt that she's still a little behind in terms of Troy-centered stories. But one of the episodes I'll talk about involves her, which I thought was really great. Season 4 begins with part 2 of Best of Both Worlds, which I pretty much covered in totality in my review of season 3. So if you want to hear what I have to say about that episode, down below in the notes, there'll be a link to my season 3 discussion, and obviously it's near the end. I'll also link the show I did covering seasons 1 and 2 as well in the show notes. So Best of Both Worlds part 2 was the first episode. The second episode was called Family. And I thought this was a great break from the intensity of the last 2 episodes. So the 3 storylines were Worf's parents kind of come on board the Enterprise to visit with him. Beverly gets this box of things from her late husband that I guess turned up somewhere. And the main one is Picard goes back to France to visit with his brother and his brother's family. And they're great stories. It's a really strong episode. Worf's visiting with his family is wonderful. They love him to death. The Rajenkos, I think they're called. And so they're talking to, Geordi and other people about Worf. And it really, Worf is kind of like a little standoffish at first, but, the arc comes around where he's really proud of them and they're very proud of him. And so it's a nice little, fuzzy moment for Worf fans. Crusher episode is also very good because, they start talking about Wesley's dead father, which they hadn't dealt with except for in one episode in season 3. And there's a wonderful last scene where, part of what's the box of things that Jack Crusher that they found is a hologram that he recorded for his son for one of his birthdays or before he went away on some mission. And so they wait, they drag it out. But at the end of the episode, we see Wesley in the holodeck playing this hologram of his dad. And the first time, I think he's I don't know if it's the first time he's seen his dad. Obviously, he must have seen pictures of him before, but it's the first encounter kind of he's had with his father as an adult, as a quasi-adult. And it's very touching, really touching. And again, a good Wesley episode. And Picard one is really wonderful. So his brother is just such a curmudgeon. His brother owns a winery, so there's a lot of scenes, where they're walking amongst the grapes, and his brother is just this curmudgeon, has hated Picard since he was a kid because Picard was, the golden child, and they're arguing and badgering back and forth, and then near the end of the episode, his brother kind of gets it out of him, Picard breaks down, and Stewart's great, and in his breakdown, he kind of reveals to his brother and to us what it was like to be Locutus and to have all these deaths it's absolutely not on his hands, but through him, all these deaths were committed by the Borg. They destroyed all these ships at Wolf 359. And he breaks down and cries that he was completely aware of everything, but could not control anything, and how it haunts him. So great episode. So again, really solid episode coming out of the gate on season 4. Then we get a follow-up episode. The next episode, also very good. And, again, it's funny, the 2 family-themed episodes. This one, Data gets this kind of, homing program, this mysterious program, and he jumps a shuttle and basically bails out of the Enterprise, and no one knows what the hell he's doing. But it was a homing beacon activated from his dad. And he's called back and meets Dr. Noonien Sung, who is still alive. It's revealed. And not soon after, also Lore arrives, having been also summoned in the same way. So a very touching episode. It's kind of another family reunion. And you have this thing of Lore, now kind of being crushed because Sung is sort of telling him, yeah, you were no good, son. Data was really my golden child. And there's obviously, there's the wonderful misdirection when Lore changes clothes with Data and all that. But it's at the end, Dr. Sung dies, and Data's right there when he dies and calls him father for the first time and last time. So in a very touching episode, Spiner's great. He really, on these Data Lore episodes, Spiner gets to have fun. He really gets to do both characters. And in this one, Lore is a little more complex because he's not super evil. He actually is vulnerable because his father is kind of telling him that you were kind of a mistake in a way. And it makes him hate Data even more. So really good episode. There was a really interesting episode called Suddenly Human, not soon after this one. So they find this kid who was human, and these Talarians, I guess, had raided a Federation outpost colony years ago and took the kid. And this kid has been raised in this Talarian, which is a very warlike society, very kind of Klingonish. And somehow it comes into, the Enterprise discovers that he's there, and he actually has family back on Earth. Not the mother and father, but, extended family. So the whole crux of the story is, are they going to take him away from the Talarians, who really kind of captured him? Or is he going to let him go back? They're going to bring him back to Earth to his normal human family. But the kid's been raised in the Talarian way, so he's very, very militant and martial. But it's a really touching episode because it turns out, that however these people are, his surrogate father really loves him. And in the way of this people, raised him to be the best thing that he could do, really cares about him. And the kid really loves him too, he doesn't have any sense of what it's like to be human or thinks he's a Talarian. And Picard makes the tough call at the end to leave the kid with the Talarians, which you just, you didn't see that coming. This kind of episode usually is sort of the kid discovers his humanity. And he realizes that once he discovers his humanity, that this alien race is too warlike, and of course he's going to go back with the humans. But no, they flip it, and Picard makes the tough call to let him return to Talaria. So I really liked it. The next episode is a good one. It's Troy centered. So Troy loses her powers. There's some anomaly that they grow close to in space, and one of the side effects is Troy's stripped of her Beta Z powers, which means she can't read anyone's emotions and thoughts, and she completely freaks. And actually, she turns really, really kind of mean and angry because everyone's trying to console her. In a sense, everyone is trying to play counselor to her, and she hates it. So she's very mean to Beverly and to Riker, where they're all trying to help her, and she's just you don't know what it's like, screw you. She's just so drowning in self-pity about what it's like to just live without these, she is half human, but to have actually no powers. And it's a really good episode for our point of view to see what it would be like for her to go around and not to sense what you're feeling and what other people are feeling. If that's like the bedrock of your experience and other people, that you can, there's a comfort in knowing how people feel around you all the time, and then that's completely taken away. And Marina Sirtis, she nails it. She really nails it. It's really good. So a solid Troy episode. It was good to see kind of her back, having an episode. I think so. Actually, one of two of hers. They still, whatever the writers still, I'm like, they're not doing a lot of Troy, and even season 4, which is like, I don't know, maybe they're finding it hard. Maybe Ron Moore's took over. Things are a little more political, a little more hardcore, and he, I think he became like a main story editor for the series. Maybe it's possible that he doesn't have a feel for Troy's character. So yeah, it's weird, but anyway, it was a good episode. There's a really god awful episode called Cupid. It's one of the Q episodes. There's only one actually this season, where he transforms them all. It's basically an excuse to have the next generation play in Robin Hood. And there's the classic quote, Worf is like, "I am not a merry man." It's just goofy and god awful. That's the Q episodes are really hit and miss. I mean, when they miss, boy, did they miss by a mile. And he wants Picard to. This is all for Picard's benefit. He feels like because of what had happened when he was stripped of his powers and was given a great gift of understanding human, mercy and compassion. He wants Picard to be stoked, and I think Vash is in this episode. He wants to instill in Picard a passion for another, for this woman. So Vash is like Lady Marian, and they all have to go rescue her, and it's god awful. So, yeah, very skippable. The drumhead is pretty good. It's very on the nose. This admiral wants to, basically there was a sabotage effort on the Enterprise. And they find out who it is, but this admiral comes on board to do the trial, to figure it out, to do the investigation. And she starts to just go hog wild. So it's like a witch hunt. And she starts investigating Picard and Riker and pulling things from past episodes, about when he broke the Prime Directive. And it's a total witch hunt. And she's kind of freaking out and is so full of power that she's going to kind of destroy everyone on the ship just for no reason. She's drilling into people's pasts and trying to find, anything. And, everyone's got something. And it's very much, a gloss on McCarthy and the show trials back in the 50s and all that crap. So a little bit on the nose. Picard, of course, makes the big, "I will not stand for this" speech. It was good. It was good. I mean, definitely, again, on the nose a little bit, but solid episode. Then Half a Life, which I can't believe I'm saying this, but it was a Luxwana Troy episode that was good. So they take on board someone from a race that has agreed culturally that when you're 60 years old, you're done. And it's a way to preserve the population and to not have the burden of old age be on the civilization. Kind of Logan's Runish, if you will. And David Ogden Stiers plays the guy. And if no one's familiar with that name, he was Charles Winchester on MASH. And he's terrific. He's a wonderful actor. Anyway. But Luxana falls in love with him. And so there's this whole Sturm and Drang in the last half of the episode when, he's realizing that he has all this knowledge and he can solve one of the big problems of his civilization if he were to, request asylum in the Federation and continue to live. And him and Luxana are very much like in love. She's head over heels for him. And not as annoying as normal because of it. It's kind of interesting. So it's great. And it's a tough ending, because he's thinking really much about staying with Luxana and taking asylum, and then his kids come on board and they're all devastated, like that he's gonna not, go along with the dictate of dying at 60, and it's a betrayal. And so if he would make the choice to stay with the Federation, he's gonna alienate and almost dishonor his family. And it's a very singular attitude that he just won't, in a sense, doing research I want to do and having the love that I want to have versus my debt to society and my commitment to my family, who would be devastated. And so he goes back, and it's, we off screen, I'm sure someone really dies. Tough episode. And Luxana is finally brought down a notch from her normal annoying self, to like almost a sympathetic character, because there's nothing she could really do about it, and she has to let him go. So, yeah, very good episode. I mean, I don't know that another Looks On at Troy episode exists that I'm gonna like, but I really like this one. Then there's a gloss on the Manchurian Candidate called The Mind's Eye. So Geordi's on his way to Ryza to have this great vacation, captured by Romulans. They brainwash him and implant something into his visor that they can connect to. And then they send it kind of a double to Ryza to pose as Geordi. And then he's back on the Enterprise later on. So we know he's been brainwashed. And there are these scenes sometimes through the visor that the Romulans are watching as he's walking around the ship. And some of the scenes were kind of chilling, because in one scene when he was captured, they did a kind of a hologram of Miles O'Brien sitting at a table, and it's very much reminiscent of what happened in Manchurian Candidate when they ask a certain character to kill another character in captivity, and the person does it. And so you see Geordi go over to and kill Miles O'Brien, and then sits down, takes his chair, and has lunch. You're like, very chilling. And so it's a great thing when he's back on board and you're not sure what the plot is and who's involved. And there's a Klingon outpost involved as well. So there's a little bit of politics. Very good, very tense, nail biter. Last minute, will they figure it out before he does what he's supposed to do? So really solid episode. And then finishes with a bang, Redemption Part 1, which is a wonderful episode. So we're back now to the Klingon homeworld. There's a Klingon civil war, possibly about to start. Gowron, who's kind of the Klingon good guy, and the Duras family, who are the bad guys. And the political machinations, and Worf gets involved, and his brother, the great Tony Todd, who plays Worf's brother, is there as well. Really great. And there are these wonderful moments when, there's information about the Duras being the traitor that Worf wants to use, and Picard won't let him. And then Worf begs Picard to intervene on the side of the Gowron, and Picard regrettably won't do it. He said, like, my hands are tied. This is an internal matter. And Worf quits. Kind of ends the episode where he leaves, which is a great cliffhanger, because you're like, well, how the hell is he going to get back? So really good episode. I'll cover Redemption Part 2 when I do Season 5, but it's a wonderful wrap-up as well. One of the best two-parters. Most of the two-parters in Next Gen are very good. I think Time's Arrow I didn't love as much, but Unification's great. Chains of Command is great. Gambit is great. This one is very good. So a lot of solid. When they do two-parters on Next Gen, they don't screw around. So that's my kind of, obviously there's a ton more episodes, but I definitely did find that there were a lot of very B- episodes in this season. Just kind of perfunctory, nothing interesting. Not a lot of serious character work was done, other than the episodes I mentioned. I mean, out of 26 episodes, I picked 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and Cupid was terrible. What did I pick, like 6 episodes, 7 that were notable? For me personally, other people might have, obviously it's my opinion, but yeah, I found the majority of the episodes very passé. So I think it's a slight come down from Season 3, to be honest, which is interesting. But Season 5, I know I'm looking ahead and I'm seeing the episodes that are in Season 5, and I think from now on, we go up. Darmok is coming up. Unification is in this season as well. And I think The Inner Light is the end of the season. So there's a lot of really great Season 5ers coming up. So I'm getting excited for it. So I hope you enjoyed. If you enjoyed this, I reviewed Season 3 in a show, and I also reviewed Seasons 1 and 2 in a previous show. I'll link them all down in the description box if you'd like to check them out. And thanks for watching.